Hello and welcome to End Goals, an LCMS Youth Ministry podcast. I'm host Reverend Mark Kiesling, and I'm with DCE Julianna Schultz. We are here to bring parents, church workers, and lay leaders discussions and resources to help your youth ministry meet its end goal, which is young people who are disciples of Jesus Christ for life. Today we're talking about how the LCMS Youth Gathering and the Gathering Offering support some of our service options and other functions of LCMS Youth Ministry.
The 2025 LCMS Youth Gathering is this year, Mark.
Yeah, it's coming fast.
It's months away, which is overwhelming for some of us, exciting for some of
absolutely.
us. And we're moving into that time when churches are getting their housing assignments, they're talking about their packing list, they're signing up for programming options at the gathering. And we're also getting a few questions because maybe you've been on the gathering website, you've been looking around, you've been looking at all the resources, you've read the full registration book, and you've seen a place for you to donate to the gathering offering. But we've never really talked too terribly much about what the gathering offering is and what it does. So we wanted to spend some time today to do that.
Absolutely. And so we are so thankful for the many ways congregations, people sometimes who don't even attend the youth gathering, are really generous with maybe it's a financial offering or it's like an in-kind gift that we do. And so much of that impacts the service that we do at the gathering. As if you've been to a gathering, you know that service is just a major component of the gathering. And some of that is just, I can't tell you enough, we talk about it enough, but just the service our young people provide to workers at the convention center by showing up, smiling, showing them the love of Jesus. It's just one vocational part of service that like events and cities that host us just know our events different. And it's so awesome. And so thank you for the adults who play that role and just are so gracious to staff, but then also demonstrate that and even encourage it for their youth. It makes a huge impact. And so it's just awesome to see that. So we love to see that word indeed that happens. Another way certainly that we do that is obviously through our specific gathering sermon events that some are offsite and then what we're calling service learning are onsite. And so like that's a big part of what we do too. And then there's another way too that we show generosity to get shown, and that's through the gathering offering. And those kind of sometimes go hand in hand too, the way the support happens. And so just want to talk about that a little bit. And one, give thanks to all of you who give to the offering, but then also so you understand where that offering goes and how that impacts ministry, both at the gathering, but then outside the gathering too.
So Mark, kind of give us the sense of like, what's the purpose for having an offering at the gathering or a gathering offering?
Yeah, so I would probably say the gathering offering probably serves three main functions. First is that specific aspects of the gathering are financially supported by the offering. In the past, that offering would go and support our efforts that we would do for offsite sermon events. And as those became more and more expensive between transportation and the supplies to be purchased or rented, and then also we provide a meal now too. We just went to a registration fee for that. So you pay additional for that to cover those expenses for those who want to do it. And so now those gathering offerings could go to support some of the on-site service learning that we do, or that we've done in the past with some of the service projects that we do. Is, again, we have agencies and organizations within the LCMS that are really financially supporting those on their own, but then we need a little bit extra help for maybe shipping stuff, or maybe there's a few products that we need to buy to make it a complete project. So those help the funds. Some of that does come out of the registration fees too, but just to add a little bit more to the service, as we know it is so impactful, not only for our young people that attend, but the way we get to impact a community or communities around what we do is just really important for us, and it's always been a part of the gathering. So that's one of the things that we do as well. A second thing that the offering supports is that oftentimes we find maybe a ministry within the host district or host city within New Orleans, oftentimes an LCMS congregation or ministry like an RSO that we oftentimes might support. And they might be an organization that we did a lot of service at, or that one way that we can have impact on them is kind of, again, a thank you for being a great host for us. And so it's just one way for us to say thank you and really be able to assist congregations in that way. And some of that same money too goes back home to districts and congregations. Like we used to have a grant process where young people could apply if they were going to do maybe an evangelism project or maybe a service project back home. And so those were kind of seed dollars for them to get something going. So it's kind of a leadership development thing that we used to do. So those are some ways that we did it. And then the third way, which is really important, near and dear to our hearts too, is that a lot of the things that we do outside of the gathering do not necessarily have a source of funding from, like, say, general synodical dollars. And so we find ways to support the ministry through the gathering offering. And so we'll be able to talk about this a little bit more, but how the Youth Resource is free is because of the gathering offering. It helps support Youth Lead. It helps support servant events through COVID a little bit to help some funds there when we needed to keep things moving. But yet a hosts are obviously struggling to host. So some ways too that some of the other ministries and connections that we have, you may have heard we were blessed to get a Lilly endowment grant recently, but that only covered portion of the fees. And so we had some gathering offering dollars designated for networking and training And so some of the dollars are going to go to help facilitate that process we're doing too. So again, ways that impact is beyond just the gathering itself, but other youth ministry functions.
So let's back that up. So let's talk a little bit more about that first one, right? So now if you're doing an offsite service, so if you sign up for the offsite service, that information will be coming out here in another couple of months, maybe probably May-ish.
Right.
Right. And we're really excited to be sending people all across the city of New Orleans to be able to do things. But now there's a cost associated to that for each group, which helps offset kind of what they do, right?
Right, correct. Yeah. And so that's, again, goes against, things just got more expensive with transportation. And then like a lot of them need tools or other things that we rent, or we work with an organization to do that. And then now we also, the thing we added from just a health and safety thing too, is we provide a lunch as part of it too. So so it takes care of a meal. So you have to rush back and be famished after a morning of service.
But now maybe the offering money that used to be set aside to help offset some of that servant event stuff that happened offsite is now happening on-site on the interactive center floor, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't know, you've heard a little bit.
Yeah.
What are some things exciting you when you hear about the service learning
There's
floor?
so exciting things. Right. So I have a particularly big spot in my heart for Ysleta Lutheran Mission. That was an impactful thing. I got to do that when I was a freshman and when I was a senior in high school, be at Ysleta. And so they're an RSO. It's going to be there on the floor. And I believe we're doing backpacks and stuffing those for their young people who are connected to Ysleta. They're in a neighborhood that is definitely socioeconomic status is particularly low and needs some additional help. And they're also doing, I believe, homeless bags as well.
Yep. Hygiene kits.
Hygiene kits. Yep. So being able to, as you can imagine, we have to get all of the stuff to pay for to make those bags happen, to then be able to send them back to Ysleta where they can get used. And so some of that's going to go to offset the purchase of some of those items.
And we should say, we sent out an email just recently, one, looking for support. We know there might be people in your network, our network, that might have access to like major donations for things like that, or maybe at a lower cost that we can buy in bulk. It's just always good for us to kind of have a foundation of so many things of deodorant or socks or whatever it might be to help those hygiene kits or backpacks that we might be able to get that we couldn't get elsewhere. So that's the first phase. And one of the big part of this too is I love when that email got out, we got a bunch of requests back already from congregations saying, hey, can we do a drive for this at our church? We're like, absolutely. And we'll give you more information on that too. We just understand too, with now that you got to pay for bags and that kind of stuff, it's not as easy. Where we used to big in-kind gifts 20, 30 years ago at the gathering, but sometimes that's not as easy with the luggage situation. But we know we got people who are driving that are like, hey, we'll just fill our
pack a trunk, right?
Full of stuff. And so we'll do that. And plus the one that's not necessarily one of our on-site service, I don't want to forget too, is that if you have a connection to this, is Life Ministries is going to have an area on the floor, and we're going to be collecting diapers too for Emergency Pregnancy Center there in New Orleans as well. So that's going to be another way of kind of an in-kind give that we can do.
And so while we know people are going to be gifting items to some degree, like we need to be sure that we can have enough stuff for all the people to be able to do the servant event on the floor for 3 days for 8 hours. And that requires us to be able to put out some money to make sure we have that base of things. So I'm really excited about that. Mark, what else is going to be in that service learning area that we can talk about?
A couple of the recognized service organizations, Orphan Grain Train is going to be doing our food packing. We didn't do that last gathering with COVID and everything going on. So we're doing food packing again. We're really excited about that. And so food will go across the globe for people who need those nourishing meals. We're at Concordia Publishing House and Concordia Gospel Outreach together. We're going to be packing some books for a ministry over in Africa. So children's books that will be able to be sent over to schools and churches where young people are learning to read. So we're really excited about that. We're going to be doing Lutheran Braille Workers is going to, again, if you were here in 2022, an outstanding event we were blessed to have. So proud that our young people in creating Braille Bibles, 100% perfect on putting the Bibles together is great.
It's like my great friend. It's like,
yeah. So they were like, can we come back again? I'm like, absolutely. So, and also some large print Bible construction too, that can happen. So, So, and great thing about some of these projects too, is these are things you can go back and do at home too. So like you'll get to learn about it and say, maybe you can do that back in your home, the church, and be a connection. And then we're going to be learning about disaster response with Forged by Fire. They're an RSO out of the Louisiana area that does a lot of storm response after disasters. And so they're going to be doing some food packing as well, more canned food packing, as well as providing some online on-site service there. And then there's a bunch, the team's still putting together some like what we were calling walk-ups. So these would be like the ones we were just mentioning are ones you're probably going to sign up ahead of time, serve 30 to 60 minutes, where there's going to be walk-up ones that, hey, I've got 5 minutes, 10 minutes to kill between sessions or something like that can come down and do some service too. So those are great ways too that we get to impact the community through some projects.
so many very cool things that the service learning team has been putting together for months now and kind of putting together. And we know that this is something that our participants, both our young people and our adults, really want to involve themselves in. They want to take time out of their programming day to make sure that they're serving in those ways. And so the way that we can make that happen for them financially is through that gathering offering. And that helps us to be able to offset some of that for those young people. So, all right, so we've got the service learning that's happening on site. And then tell me more about like how we support through our district or in that local area with our offering.
So we usually then take some time as like we go through the gathering process of, so often there is an organization or maybe a congregation or a school that just supports us in amazing ways to make the gathering possible. And so then usually it's fun that we get to surprise them with a little bit of a gift after the gathering. It's just a thank you on behalf of the youth and adults of the LCMS as a support that they gave to the gathering. You know, not everyone's going to recognize it or seen it. But yeah, certainly we know it as planners, and many people will be able to be impacted by that. And so that's kind of a follow-up gift that we give after the offering to a local organization that supports us.
Yeah, there's so many little ways that, post-gathering we're able to bless local ministries with extra supplies, with offering money, with...
Yeah, because I should say too, like if we have enough donations, like we're actually talking about that hygiene kit will not only help Asleta, but will help a local mission in New Orleans. So they're working with us on this to get the things that are helpful in that climate and things like that. And then too, if we have enough backpacks, then we'll stay in the New Orleans area as well. As we got a ministry that will take them and distribute them. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the gathering's a little bit later this year, so like school's around the corner. And so like I think they're going to pick them up from the convention center and drive them to the place where they're going to be probably giving them out because of how tight we're getting close to start of school.
Yeah. So, okay. So on-site service, but then helping to bless kind of our local things. And I really do love the impact that we have in the city. And often, you guys are so focused on what your experience is at the gathering in those 5 days. You should be, that you don't we get to go back in October.
Right.
And hear from people at the convention center, people at the Dome, people in the city who can see the impact, both the financial impact for the city, but then also just the experience that we can help, the ways in which we're able to share the gospel in word and deed all across the city with Uber drivers, with waiters and waitresses, with all our hospitality people at the hotels. That is a really important thing. And I think part of what we can do in preparing our young people is helping remind them that they are a light in that place as they go through that experience. And that's a way for God to shine and share the gospel with the people around them.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Then this is particularly the part of the offering. Can I say that I'm the fondest of? Is that rude? I don't know. That I get to help with a little bit.
Yeah. So kind of that other bucket of the offering goes to support the ministries or events that we have here in LCMS Youth Ministry. So two of the big ones, certainly that support is Youth eSource and then also Youth Lead, which does have a registration fee that you'll be able to talk about here a little bit, but there's additional stuff that keep that registration fee low, that there's other programming that goes in with that the offering helps with that. And then again, we'll see where it goes. This last gathering, I know the offering support LCMS servant events too. Again, it's kind of went through the COVID years, but that may not be necessary, but that'd be one of the other options too, to make sure we keep that program running and help our hosts make their costs low so that participants can participate there on sites all across the country. But why don't you tell us a little bit about how it impacts Youth eSource and, Youth Lead?
So hopefully because we talk about it at the end of every podcast now, or at least we have for the last little bit. So youthesource.com is our resource website that was started well ahead of its time through staff on our LCMS Youth Ministry staff, including Mark and other folks, and Terry Dittmer, who really saw the need to put our resources not just in physical binders, which I still have, or comb-bound magazines that went out. I mean, that's used to be how we would send out resources, would be physically send them to churches. Now we're able to distribute them across the church very rapidly using Youth eSource. So we do a number of different things there. So we have Bible studies, we have devotions, we have articles, we have skits, we have games, we have kind of the breadth of resources, all written by LCMS folks across the country who all do youth ministry in some way, shape, or form. And then provided to you. We try and update it at least once a week. Usually sometimes we do more than that to make that available. And so part of that process is that our authors who write for us get paid not a lot, but they get paid something for their time, right? We want to make sure that we're compensating them for the time that they're putting together, writing that, making sure it's really thoughtful content. Lots of times these are our church workers who are test driving the material with their own kids, coming back, rewriting, who are spending more time than maybe I pay them for, often creating extra handouts and making sure that the material is really what's helpful for the church. And so it helps to pay them to be able to write those resources, because certainly we put out more resources than I could write all on my own. And it gives us a bigger width and breadth of perspectives from people who are DCEs, people who are pastors, but also people who are lay workers, people who are volunteers, who are all kind of helping to point people to the gospel through eSource. And then Youth Lead is our teen leadership program that we do leadership training once a year here in St. Louis. And then we're working on expanding that out into some other places as well. Maybe you saw Youth Lead Kids if you were at the National Lutheran Youth Workers Conference, but that is a leadership program that does both. It creates a curriculum that they can teach back home in a bunch of different contexts, and then also teaches them leadership skills, Christian leadership skills. So we just held that last week.
Right.
93 participants, which is amazing. And we were able to really spend our time. This year's curriculum was talking about caring for your peers. That was really super practical. But then we also talked about how do you lead a small group, and we have strength finders. And so we're able to do a lot with that weekend, probably more than what that budget allows because of what the Gathering offering money does. It helps us to do things like create video curriculum that makes it way easier for teens to take back and teach. So that's really fantastic. It gives us some extra money to be able to really invest in our young leaders and our church body. And that's incredibly valuable. We think it's worth the bang for our buck, but we couldn't do either of those things. And we certainly couldn't offer eSource for free like we do. We certainly couldn't offer a Youth Lead at the price point that we do without the Gathering offering. So if you like what we do at the Gathering and you want to support the other things we do,
that's one way to do it. Yeah,
that is one way to do it.
And I say too, like to make sure to be full transparency with the audience too, is that both the Youth eSource one, but Youth Lead 2 benefited by, LWML, wonderful grants for that. Yes. Other grants that have come to that we've been very and basically Youth Lead was LYF first got started by a major grant that was kind of some conglomerates of some other youth ministry funds that came together. We're talking 40 years ago. That was an endowment essentially that got started. And so that was kind of an underpinning of that for decades, helped support it financially. The Gathering used to invest in it some too that way, but then now through the Gathering offering to keep that great program at the level that it is. And certainly other two that we've been thankful for the generous people who donate directly to Youth Lead 2 or Youth eSource because they appreciate the work. So we're always so thankful of those donors that outside the Gathering offering even do that. But the Gathering offering makes it easy to be able to support those ministries that way.
Yeah. So I think it's helpful to make sure that we clarify that these are not necessarily exclusively funded by the offering, right? We are we're working through an LWML grant right now, but we've had them in the past as well. We're really grateful for the other ways that we're able to get those things funded, but certainly huge benefit to us to be able to utilize the Gathering offering to benefit youth ministry across our synod in those particular ways.
And I should say that along too, thanks to all of you bringing young people, is that, we're so blessed by the support of the Youth Gathering in the sense of our whole staff is paid by Youth Gathering funds. So that enables us to do more well beyond the Gathering too. And so that support that comes that enable us to do this work without, again, other support that's there to have the staff to make it work and be managed well. We're very thankful again for all the support our congregations give us through the Youth Gathering.
Yeah. So if you ever wondered, I know when I was an adult leader, we gave a donation to the offering. And I was not till I was on staff. I was like, oh, that's what we do with it. Right? And so we really do. We know that people are fundraising. You're doing bake sales. We've been to a couple of fundraisers recently, for local churches, that we know how much effort you put into that. Right. And so we absolutely are incredibly grateful for the extra money that might come through a Gathering offering. We know that is hard earned, and we try and respect that by being incredibly good stewards of that and passing it back to you with excellent resourcing
Right.
and with other ministry opportunities that can be helpful for you in other ways. Mark, where might I get the link to donate to the offering?
Great question. So right now, if you wanted to give early, or if you have people in your congregation who want to give, is that it's available on the Gathering website. So if you go to Give Online, there's a menu option up at the top that takes you to that page. And then also the other way that, again, is a powerful way is during the closing worship service is another way that you can give at that time. And I should say, too, if you don't want to give online, if you want to give, we oftentimes will get, churches will send checks in, whether that's before the gathering or after the gathering, or bring it to the gathering, too. Probably better to maybe mail it before or after. You can certainly send that to our office, to just designate that it's for the gathering offering. So that's another great way. So it's very unique. We used to, years ago, it'd be this big thing of counting the coin and everything that came in from the worship service. Of course, that's gone down it's pretty much cashless now. So there's other ways that, again, that we've obviously had to develop to give from that standpoint, but still, again, appreciate all the people that make the effort to do that, whether, again, it's on site or whether it's through the website or other ways that are there, that we're so appreciative of the support that we get.
And if you didn't spend all your cash on beignets,
right,
this is your moment.
Right. Wednesday on the way out, right? Yeah.
Covered in powdered sugar.
Right.
After you tipped your waiter.
Yes.
It's a great way for you to put the last of your cash.
Yes, because that's one reason why you got to bring cash to New Orleans. Cafe Du Monde.
It's pretty much the only reason. Unless you need cash. That and tipping your
Very good point. Very good
your
point. Yes.
hotel folks.
Absolutely.
And that kind of thing. We are incredibly grateful. If you haven't heard us say that enough, please know that we are incredibly grateful and humbled by the generosity of the congregations that send their young people.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that this is no small endeavor to bring your group to New Orleans, to bring them to the gathering. We know that the effort that it takes for you to do that. And we continue to pray for you as you do fundraising, as you budget, and as you do all those things. We hope that this gives you a little sense of transparency. You get to understand a little more about how some of these pieces in our budget are managed, and a little bit of encouragement maybe for you to think about how you can contribute to some of our service events in particular to be able to support those.
Yeah, it really does make an impact. So we're so thankful for that generosity that is there, and the ways the congregations continue to support beyond just their youth coming, which is an amazing impact that makes in so many ways, but also how we hope, again, the connection of the gathering, the gospel that's taught there, God's word that is so much a part of the event, is something that we're able to put into action for many around the event too, and have that ongoing effect as well. So thanks for all your generosity.
So a couple of questions for you to consider as you go forward. The first one would be, how are you preparing your young people to travel and to be hospitable and lights in the New Orleans area as we're there for the gathering?
As you think about your time after the youth gathering, what are ways that you can incorporate things like Youth eSource or Youth Lead into your youth gathering programming that you so generously support through the gathering offering in other ways that can be an impact on your young people in your congregation?
And finally, how can you be thinking about how you will incorporate offsite or onsite service learning into your gathering experience for your young people? We will continue to keep you in our prayers as you plan, as you prepare, as you work with your young people and fundraise, that you would have an amazing gathering experience with us in July.
End Goals Podcast is a production of LCMS Youth Ministry and KFUO Radio. To find links mentioned in the episode or more about LCMS Youth Ministry, go to kfuo.org/youth ministry. And find resources for youth ministry at youthesource.com. Thank you for listening and caring for the young people of our church.